Hi, I'm Aditya Thakur and welcome to this session. Today I will be talking about Material Design 3 and Flutter. In the recent Google I/O announcements, the Flutter team announced support for Material Design 3, and today we would be looking at some of the components that are available to use, some of the changes that have been made, and what all new features would soon be available to us. Before we dive right in, a little bit about me. I am currently working as developer advocate at 100ms. It is a video infrastructure company that lets you quickly add audio video conferencing to your application. Before this, I've previously worked with a few startups and also have been an open source contributor to the Flutter Community Plus plugins, the Firebase Flutter repository, and have also been a speaker at some of the global conferences like the Global Summit, the Flutter Vikings, and I also create content. I have a YouTube channel of my own with 6,000 subscribers and also a Discord community with 1,000 plus members where we mostly talk about Flutter development and things around it. In today's session, we would be looking at material design. So, material design is this adaptable system of guidelines that give you the best practices in user interface design. In Google I/O announcements, the Flutter team announced support for Material 3. It is now available to with opt-in support, so you can choose to opt in for Material 3 by toggling an option, which we would be looking at soon. There are a few things available, a number of components, updates to color system and typography that we can check out. So Material Design 3 is largely complete, allowing developers to take advantage of this adaptable cross-platform design system, which offers this dynamic color scheme and some updated visual components. How do we get started with it? We can choose to use Material Design 3 in our Flutter applications by going down to the theme data and setting the use Material 3 to true. Let's check that out in action. So I'll come back to my system and open the terminal. I can navigate to my desktop by typing in cd desktop, and I can create a new Flutter project. I'll give it a name. I'll wait for the Flutter create command to run and create this new Flutter project. This should take some time. Once the project is ready, we can open it in a code editor of our choice. I'll use VS Code for this demonstration. After creating a new project, this is the default application that we all are familiar with as Flutter developers. Whenever you run a new Flutter project, it opens up to this counter application. And when you click on this floating action button, it increments the number on screen. The project that we are running right now using Material Design 2, and you can see the floating action button is round. The app bar is colored blue, which is the default Flutter color. If I'll go down to the same project that we have created inside theme data, clear out some of the comments and type in use Material 3 and set this to true. Now, if I save this file, there would be some changes made to the application that was running. You would notice the app bar loses the blue color and the floating action button becomes a bit more square, somewhat round on the edges. But this is the new Material Design 3 guidelines. This is done according to the new UI guidelines set in Material Design 3. And it works similar. Like if you click on the button, it should increment the counter on screen. What we notice is with Material Design 3, there are a lot of things that have come into the picture. There are updates to the button made, the floating action button, some changes to typography and the color scheme. The main issue or the umbrella issue that is tracking all these changes is this bring Material 3 to Flutter, issue number 91605. And this talk is based off this issue. We are looking at some of the changes that have been made. On your screen right now, we have the previous floating action button, which is replaced with the new floating action button in Material 3. The previous floating action buttons were a bit round, and you would notice the new floating action buttons are a bit square with some curved edges. There have been some changes made to the buttons as well. There are also changes made to the upper app bar. The original one was had a blue or a purplish color in this case, but the new app bar doesn't have it. It's a bit neater, I would say. Having worked with UI UX design a bit, I think the new Material Design 3 is more modern and it looks a bit prettier. There are some additions made, so now you have new properties that you can modify to adapt to this new design system. So there's the surface tint color that you can update. Let us come back to our code editor itself, and to start with, I'll increase the font a bit so that it's better visible. Now coming back to our code, if I go down to the app bar where we have the app bar, I can add another property called the surface tint color, and I can set it to something like colors dot red. Now, if I come down to my body of the scaffold, I can get rid of some of the default code that is written here, and instead use a list view dot builder. So I've added list view dot builder as into in the body of the scaffold just to get this scrolling behavior. Now you would notice is when there is nothing underneath the app bar, it is of white color. But when you scroll up a bit, it changes color to red because we have specified the surface tint color to this colors dot red. We also have the option to modify the scroll under elevation. So by default, it's set to 3 when there is something beneath the bar. It is the elevation is 0 when there's nothing underneath the bar, but when you're scrolling up and there's something underneath it, the elevation changes to 3. We can modify the scroll under elevation to our choice. In addition to this app bar, we also have a new bottom navigation. So before material 3, what we used to do is if we would type in bottom navigation bar, we could give it the bottom navigation bar, which would take in some bottom navigation bar items and it would create that bottom navigation. But in material 3, we have something called a navigation bar. So I can type in navigation bar. It takes in something called destinations. Now we can specify a navigation bar destination. We can specify a navigation destination and it would take in an icon and a label. So we can specify an icon and use any of the icons available to us. I'll copy this line of code and paste it a few times to have at least 3 navigation destinations uh, to refer. To make it functionable, I'll create a new variable called int selected index, or more appropriately current index, and set this to 0. I'll also create a function to update this index. Should take in current index. I also create a function to update the index. So it will take in the new value and it will set the current index to this new value. Once I save this, you will see like the new navigation bar appears. I'll get rid of the surface tint color that we had specified for the app bar. Save it again, and it will be more in line with the theme now. So we have the white app bar, we have a bottom navigation. If I click on it, I'll also have to add the functionality inside the navigation bar itself. So for the navigation bar, we can specify the selected index and also set on destination selected function. So I'll specify the selected index to this current index and on destination selected to our created function called set index. Save this again, and now it should be functionable. So now if I click on call, it should navigate to that score, and you would see this small neat animation that is available in the navigation bar. So when you click on it, the button is highlighted and the label is also visible. There are options to modify the label as well. So if I go down to navigation bar, you would see there is an option we can add on to, which is the label behavior. There are three options we can set it to. We have the navigation destination label behavior dot always show by default. We can change it to always hide if we want to hide the labels and only show the icons. We also have show selected to only show the label of the navigation bar item we select. So if I select call, it should show the call label. So this was an example of the M3 bottom navigation. Now, Material Design 3 also has this adaptive color scheme. So there are changes made to colors and themes. So themes in Material U would expand the color space that was previously available. There are new color spaces that have been added. The new added colors include a tertiary group and a container variants for several of the colors. The two colors that are being deprecated are the primary variant, the secondary variant. Instead, there have been some new colors added to the color scheme, such as the primary container, on primary container, secondary container, tertiary containers, and so many more. There have also been changes to the typography. So the typography styles have undergone a simplification. Before Material 3, there were only like six headline variations. In Material 3, there is more a regular and smaller number of variants for each classification, namely small, medium, and large. In the attached image too, you would see there are title small, body large, body medium, body small, label large, and such additions that have been made. So Material 3 is also more adaptive. It should adapt to the screen that it is currently on. And with Flutter, since we are building apps for multiple devices, there is a very good cookbook by the Google team itself on creating more adaptive apps. What's next with Material Design 3? If we go back to the tracking issue, bring Material 3 to Flutter, you would see there are updates mentioned here that are available in Flutter 3. But even beyond this, they have mentioned what all is in progress being worked on. So there are components that are being worked on, such as the bottom app bar, drawer, switch, and such. There are new features that need to be added. There are some iOS features that need adaptation, typography which needs support for material symbols, and documentation being worked on. If you have any questions, you can always look up this issue to track what all new things are being worked on, what all new features that are coming with Material 3 to Flutter. There are a lot of improvements already done, but there are a lot of things that are being worked on. That is it for my presentation for this session. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can tweet me at Aditya Thakur XD, and I would be happy to answer any questions that I can. Thank you so much for watching.